It's officially new in Boxtober here on Vintage Geek, and today we're opening another boxed original, the Laser 128. Back in 1986, a company called VTech decided to get into the computer game with their version of an Apple II clone. Now, we talked about in the last video an IBM clone with the Core Data Systems and the Corona Data Systems before that, and this is kind of a parallel story, believe it or not. The Laser 128 was actually taken to court on similar terms as the Corona Data Systems case with the IBM, where the original manufacturer, Apple, tried to claim that it was against copyright. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into all the details here. But ultimately, in the case of the Laser 128, they won because they used the clean room technique, which was also brought up in the show Halt and Catch Fire. So just kind of an interesting parallel there. The Laser 128 is by all accounts a fully Apple II compatible system. It has 128K of RAM, and it's in a small form factor, kind of similar to the Apple IIc. I have never used a Laser 128. I've never actually seen one in person before now, and we happen to have a boxed original here in the museum that we acquired from a collection of other boxed originals, which you saw the first of last week on the channel. I'm excited to get into this one and see what's in the packaging and take this all out. One thing I find interesting is that this was the second or possibly third clone to come out for the Apple II series. The first one was the Franklin Ace. We actually have one of those in the museum. Franklin lost the lawsuit against Apple. Ultimately, they did not use the clean room technique when making their BIOS, but Laser was, they did it right. So it's kind of exciting to be able to see this come together. The box itself is pretty cool. There's a lot of great imagery on the box. On the back of this, it explains all of the various ports and the configuration options of the system, shows some of the software titles that you can run with it. It seems to be very retail friendly. I could see someone looking at this in a store and basically saying, oh yeah, this seems like a great deal. I can get all the compatibility with Apple without paying the Apple price. So pretty smart on their part. So it looks like we've got two separate sections of styrofoam. I'm guessing one of these is going to be the peripherals. So first, let's look and see what we've got for cables and connectors. Looks like we've got a standard composite video cable. The adapter cable, which they actually mentioned specifically on the box, this is going from the RGB port on the back of the Apple, and it actually goes to a standard 9-pin IBM RGB port. It also seems to have these little cores on it. I'm guessing these are ferrite, probably for interference. So that's kind of interesting. Power adapter. Looks like this unit has a external power adapter, and it's got the VTech branding on it. Looks clean and nice. And it certainly looks like we've got everything here. So the first thing we've got here in the package, we've got the Laser 128 user's guide. Looks like this covers the 128, the 128EX, and the 128EX2. Looks like we've got some accessories literature here. Shows you some of the other products available for the Laser series. Some other documents in here. Not sure what this is for, but I do appreciate the "thou shalt not dupe." Actually, looks like there's an original receipt in here as well. Looks like the price of the computer was $299, so just under $300. And it appears that it came from a Sears. So we know a little bit more info about the actual machine now. It's possible, based on what I'm seeing here, that this box may have been opened at some point, at least the packaging for the paperwork, because I don't think that they would have put the original sales receipt and so forth in the box. That was probably done by somebody, I'm guessing. And we've got the read me first, which is very bold about it. I think it really wants us to read it first. 10 easy steps to success in setting up the Laser 128 series. Well, just like I do with any computer, we're just gonna set that aside. So looking at the computer itself, we do have this in the wrap. It's got the original cardboard and the floppy disk. The thing is looking really good so far. Let's go ahead and pull the plastic off of this. And oh my, that is a beautiful Laser 128. And just look at the keys on this thing. It does appear to be new. It's actually a smaller form factor than I was anticipating. Granted, this is a little bit later in the development cycle, probably 1986. Things are a little bit smaller by this point, but I like the size of this whole thing. It's a 128K machine. It's got a handle. You can pick it up and carry it, and it's you know, doesn't really weigh very much. I'm going to take a look at all of the specific features of this Laser 128 in just a minute, but I want to mention before I do that it's always amazing to see these machines in this kind of condition. It must have been such a joy to unbox a new computer like this back in that day. And I only have a limited experience with that of my own from when I was a kid with the one color computer too that I had, and I was so excited about the computer I don't really remember unboxing it. Getting the chance to do that here on the channel and share it with you is really a good time, and I'm glad that we're able to do this here on Vintage Geek. We also have the matching Laser 128 external 5¼ inch floppy drive still in the box. Let's see what we've got here. In this particular case, it looks like the silica gel may have leaked. We've got some kind of goop, I guess, for lack of a better word, that was on the cable. It actually looks like it bonded to the actual case of the floppy drive here. I'm guessing that just happened with age. The connector on this, actually, if you look closely at the back, it's like the plastic actually rubbed off on something else. So not sure what the deal is with that, but it still looks like a perfectly good drive. This has got the cork feet, which we saw in the core data. These are pretty hefty cork feet, actually. It's got the cardboard insert in it, so in theory, this should be a decent Laser 128 floppy drive. So taking a closer look at the Laser 128, the first thing I noticed about this is that the height of the actual keyboard is quite high compared to a standard keyboard design. That's because of this kind of all-in-one package unit construction. It's probably not the most ergonomic thing in the world, but I can see what they did here, and it does make sense. The keyboard itself is quite nice. Tactile wise, it's a little bit different than a standard keyboard. It has more of a kind of a springy press to it, but not bad. Reset key is interesting. It's kind of this separate little small key in the top left corner of the keyboard. And we do have some interesting switches here. First of all, it has a mode switch to go between 40 and 80 column mode. There's a parallel and serial printer switch, so you could choose which type of printer you were using. Monitor selector can choose monochrome or color. And then you've got your various indicator lights for disk. You've got a caps lock indicator and a power indicator. This keyboard also does have a full numeric keypad on the side, although there is no gap in between it and the rest of the keyboard to make it a kind of a compact, small form factor system. Overall, it's well put together, it feels good, and it is super, super clean. If we take a look at the side here, there's an expansion port here on the side that is for the laser expansion box. But it does have expansion capabilities, which was one of the major things that they were touting, as some of the actual Apple systems were limited in that regard. And if we take a look at the back, of course, we've got the handle here, which I appreciate very much, a joystick or mouse port. You've got a printer port, RGB monitor port. You've got a composite video out. We also have a external drive port. That's how we're going to connect that external floppy drive to the system. Over here, we've got the modem port and a serial printer port, as well as the power supply input. And you've got a standard kind of toggle switch for your on-off over here. There is a 5¼ inch floppy drive mounted directly in the case. It is actually taking up some of the real estate of the unit. That kind of impresses me, to be honest, because, you know, you're talking about a very small form factor for all of this. It all fits in this one case, but also it's got 128K of RAM, which was way more than came standard with the Apple IIe for sure. And if I'm not mistaken, based on the paperwork I found inside this box, it looks like this may have had the factory upgrade to 1 megabyte of memory with an add-on card inside the case. So we're going to take a quick look at that and see if that is the case. No pun intended. I'm anxious to find out. Looks like on the bottom we've got a series of switches here. These are under this little metal panel. Those are some things I'm gonna have to read about. Obviously more advanced features of the system and configuration options you can set with these little switches. Underneath the keyboard we've got a headphone output and a volume control for that headphone output. As far as the external floppy disk drive goes, there's really not much to talk about. It looks pretty standard. It's got the right mating connector to go into the back of the Laser 128. So I want to take a look inside the system. Everything's looking pretty good in here so far. So it does look like it's got 4 RAM banks total, and this does seem like it is the expansion card, at least from everything they've described in the paperwork for this. I assume that the card itself sits on top of the motherboard, very tight spacing, because this is all a very compact unit. I'm not going to take off the full cover because I don't need to get that far in depth, but it looks like one of the RAM banks is filled. So there's 4 total. It looks like, according to the manual, that for each set of 8 chips, you do get 256K of additional memory. And in total, if you filled all 4 banks, you would get a full meg, or 1024K. This particular machine did have the expansion board installed, and it does have another 256K of RAM on board. And in the process, it looks like they may have missed one screw hitting it back into the case. Other than that, the motherboard is underneath this RAM expansion board. I'm not going to dig all the way down into that because there's a lot of screws and I already feel a little bit precarious in taking this apart. The only other thing worth noting inside this Laser 128 is that it does have a small speaker. It's in the top part of the case, kind of on the back side where those grates are. So I think next we're going to put this back together and see if it functions. We've got our Laser 128 set up and ready to go. I did follow the quick step guide, the 10 things you need to know before you set up your Laser 128. It was all pretty expected about connecting your monitor. In our case, we're going to use the RGB Tandy monitor that we've used in earlier videos because we know it's a working RGB type monitor. With this particular Apple II clone, you can force it into basic mode right away by holding control and reset. So I'm probably going to do that rather than try to initially boot this thing from a floppy, just in case the floppy drive has any issues. Here we go. We've got a basic prompt. Things are looking good so far. I think this may be our first unboxing that we haven't had a failure out of the box, so I'm gonna hope that will continue. Since we started in the basic prompt here in our Laser 128, I thought I would put in a couple of basic commands just to see if it behaves normally. And I found in the book just a very simple plot example here. So if I type in NGR, the keyboard feels great, by the way. It's very natural feeling, I like it. And then if we run this, we should get a purple dot in the top left corner of the screen. Yeah, and there it is, a purple dot, kind of more like a purple line if I'm honest, but it's definitely there, so I'll take that as a win. So everything seemed to boot up normally on this machine. I think what I'd like to do next is try an actual Apple II floppy. I thought it would be kind of fun to try a game that would push the system to its limits. Now, a lot of the Apple II systems did not have 128K available, so that's kind of a luxury. And since we have that with the Laser 128 here, I thought it would be kind of fun to try a 128K game for the Apple II. We have one of those by Mech. It's called Fossil Hunter. I don't have the actual cover for this game. It's going to be interesting to see what it'll do as it requires that full 128K. All right, it's booting up. Fossil Hunter. It's the Science Inquiry Collection. It looks like our composite video capture does have some artifacting in it, so you're going to notice that in the video, but I want to reiterate that the RGB on the actual monitor looks great with this Laser 128. And I see we've got Fossil Hunter, we've got all of our different periods of time here. This looks pretty cool so far. Yeah, Fossil Hunter. We can explore the site, find the fossil. All right, let's see what we can do here. Let's explore the site a little bit. I did spell my name right. Thank you for asking. It's a little bit weird to have the floppy drive so quiet. It's a more modern drive than the Apple IIs typically had, and I kind of miss hearing all of those different sounds as it loads the disk. The Museum of Fossils is sending you to a field site. Many fossils are hidden in the rock at this site. If you dig, you will find some of these fossils. Different fossils can be found in different layers of the rock. All right. Oh, interesting. So we can move to the different layers here. Oh, look, he builds his little scaffolding as you go up further. That's pretty neat. How about the Triassic? Let's do a little digging here, huh? Oh, yeah. Hey, we found a frog. Cool. Can I dig again, or is there any more fossils in this? Ooh, a shark. Nice. That gives you some info on the sharks here. Very educational. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let's do a little digging all the way down here at the bottom. Gastropod. Nice. What does the graph look like on here? Okay. It's giving you a little time scale. It's pretty cool. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is definitely behaving exactly like an Apple II, but I would venture to say a little bit better. I actually like the keyboard on this. I kind of prefer it to the original Apple II keyboard. It's got a nice feel to it. And of course, this being new and super clean, it's really kind of fun to use. It looks great on the RGB output. I think that's one of those things that you don't get in the actual Apple II. That's a really nice feature to be able to take advantage of a true RGB monitor. The composite output is fine, but as I mentioned, it's got some kind of artifacting and things we're seeing in the capture. I'm not sure if you'd see that on a real composite monitor. It could be a factor of just having some interference sources or the floppy disk drive. Not really sure what's causing it, but it looks great on the monitor itself. And I have to say that I'm really impressed with this Laser 128, and I'm very happy that we've had an unboxing that has resulted in a positively working machine. Everything seems to be working as planned, and this is going to be a great addition to the Vintage Geek Museum. So glad that we've added this to the collection. The Laser 128, I have to say that I'm pretty impressed overall, and it was a great new in-box find that we've had here at Vintage Geek. We're celebrating New In-Boxtober, and we've got more videos coming up this month of other systems we're going to be unboxing. If you like vintage computers, if you like what we're talking about here, be sure to like and subscribe. It's going to help us a lot as we grow the channel and grow the museum. We also have some pretty cool merch. Check out the link in the description. You can get shirts like the one that I'm wearing today. You can also get coffee cups and other accessories on that link as well. Until next time, I'm Aaron Ishmael, and this has been Vintage Geek.